Hi, this is Angie with the New Normal Society. Welcome back to A Class of Your Own. Today we're going to be talking about such an important topic, and that is socialization. So many families are concerned about the isolation that can be experienced by students in homeschool environments. And it's a very valid concern, and it's something that I'd like to address and hopefully bring some perspective to from my experience, both as a homeschooling parent and also as a teacher in classrooms from public and private high schools to first grade. If you spent much time in typical classrooms, then you probably know that school can be one of the worst places for healthy and genuine socialization. And the reason for that is that social skills are just that. They are skills that need to be specifically taught. And for many of our kids on the spectrum, they don't come naturally. If your student is coming from a self-contained environment, they've been placed in a classroom with other kids who experience similar challenges. So it's hard to have a mentor or a role model in that environment when everyone's kind of struggling with the same thing. In a typical general education environment, there is just not enough time in the day between academics and administrative tasks to teach and practice supported socialization. A lot of people believe that lunchtime for older kids or recess for younger kids are great times to socialize. And the reality is that's not really true, especially for a lot of our kids on the spectrum. That's because lunchtime can be very chaotic. It can be loud, a lot of kids in close proximity to you, and you're trying to eat as well as talk to someone. That is a tall task for anyone, but especially for someone that might struggle with it. Recess is an opportunity sometimes for bullying or exclusion, unless it's supported and someone is actively guiding kids to work together and socialize with one another. So, while concerns about homeschooling and the isolation that can accompany it are legitimate, and we're going to talk about ways that you can teach social skills in your homeschool program. So, while those concerns absolutely are valid, I don't want you to think that you're missing out on something else that's so much better, because chances are those socialization times in school are also very difficult. In our last video, we talked about my friend Jonathan's book, From Surviving to Thriving: Classroom Accommodations for Students on the Autism Spectrum. And this is another area that Jonathan touches on that's so critical and so important for our kids on the spectrum. He talks about social cues and the social rules that are unwritten. So these are assumptions that people might make about social situations, but they're not codified, they're not written down. So someone who struggles with social interaction might not know these rules. He talks about the social anxiety that comes from that. And it can be almost debilitating trying to socialize in an environment when you have that anxiety and you're just trying to focus and concentrate. What are the rules? What can I say? How do I join this conversation? What are we talking about? I've talked a little bit about my middle twin, who is less impacted by his autism, but one of his primary struggles is with socialization, and in particular with conversation. He's very unsure about when he can join a conversation. He doesn't want to interrupt people who may already be talking. He's not certain about the topic. What do I talk about? What's appropriate? What's not? And he has certain affinities that other people may or may not find interesting. And so he has anxiety around whether or not he can bring those up in a conversation. The first question will be, okay, if we're not in school, who are we going to socialize with? Who are we going to practice these skills with? And the answer is that there is not an easy answer. Some of us are fortunate to have some trusted friends and extended family. And I have found in particular that siblings of individuals with autism or other special needs can be amazing role models when it comes to socialization and social skills. They are accustomed to some of the quirks that they might encounter. They are used to prompting and providing guidance that our kids might need to practice their social skills. When we lived in Vancouver, British Columbia, I worked with a nonprofit there called Friend to Friend Social Learning Society. And they did something that was amazing that helped both of my sons who are on the spectrum progress with their social skills. Friend to Friend would go into classrooms and train students in a very empathetic and kind and respectful way how to be a friend to someone with autism. So instead of asking our kids, who are starting here and may struggle with social skills to come all the way here to meet typical kids. Friend to Friend would train typical peers to meet our kids halfway or even to meet them where they are. And that can help your child grow and learn, having typical peers who understand them and can model appropriate social behavior and appropriate conversation. We have a lot of tools and techniques that you can use to teach social skills in your homeschool program, and we will dedicate an entire video or perhaps even a series of videos to those. They include things like interviewing typical peers or teaching very specific structure of conversation. I look forward to you joining us. In our next video, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is lesson planning. Take care.